Well, there's a whole chunk of about 30 pages in the interim report devoted to technology issues, and particularly the role of technology in the advancement of the financial services industry. But that's not really the full story, because the rest of the report is peppered with references to technology advancements, to the use of big data, to technology neutrality, the need to change the regulatory perimeter to deal with new entrants and disruptive players and that sort of thing. So it's really a common theme running through the whole of the report. The big focus of the report is really to focus on both the opportunities for financial services players arising out of technology developments, and also the risks as well. On the opportunities side of the ledger, a real focus on the idea of increasing competition because of new entrants who are enabled by technology developments, better access for consumers to new products and better access to information, and really an ability for financial services players to enhance their own internal processes and to be more efficient. So a lot on the plus side of the ledger. And on the risk side of the ledger, quite interesting, really, a focus on whether regulation will need to be expanded, in fact, to deal with new entrants and the risks posed by new entrants, and also a lot of time spent in the report on data and the gathering of data and the risks that come with that gathering of lots of data, particularly cybersecurity risks, privacy risks, and potentially even the use of data for reasons or purposes that are not for the benefit of customers. So there's quite a lot in the report on technology, which I think is interesting and really looking to the future. Well, there are a number of specific questions and policy options canvassed by the interim report, specific matters canvassed by the report in the technology area. First to mention, I think, is probably the potential expansion of the regulatory perimeter. And what I mean by that is expanding the regulatory framework to cover players who are not themselves financial services providers, operating in the market as financial services providers at the moment, but who may, through technology development, end up doing the same sorts of things as existing players. And by that I mean the likes of Google, PayPal, Apple and so on, particularly in the payment space, and those operators who are dealing with virtual currencies. And the report canvasses a specific a couple of policy options on that front. One is an entirely level playing field approach, so you are regulated purely by virtue of your activity. Or secondly, a graduated way of regulating new entrants, so regulating new entrants on the basis of the risk they pose. A greater amount of regulation if there is greater risk, lesser amount of regulation if there is less risk. So that's very interesting area and will be, I think, really critical in the payments and virtual currency space. Next thing to mention is in relation to technology providers of scale. And by that I mean suppliers of technology systems to financial services players. And the report canvasses an option which would be to extend the requirements to hold AFSL licenses to those providers. Now that will come as a big surprise to the likes of IBM, Telstra, Accenture and so on, and I don't think they'll be very happy. And I also don't think that policy option will be supported by and large by the financial services sector. It will be likely to increase costs, I think, of procuring services from that sort of technology service provider. And then lastly, a lot of specific recommendations in relation to data. The possibility of mandatory data breach reporting, the idea of a national trusted digital identity, a review of privacy requirements in a couple of years' time, particularly in relation to offshore disclosure, a review of the national cyber security policy. So quite a lot around that in relation to data and how to handle data and how to protect consumers' interests in relation to the increasing volumes of data that are being held.